Ta-da! Okay, actually here, okay, we've managed to work out the technology, and I have the fabulous Nikki on screen here now. And today we were going to talk about the fabulous world of prepping for competitions. Obviously, we have a pro here to tell you all the interesting information that you probably don't hear when people are talking about it on Facebook normally. Things like toilet functions and food cravings. So those are the kind of topics you can imagine that you're going to be listening to tonight. If you've got any questions, please feel free to ask. Don't be shy. Mainly aim them at Nikki rather than myself. But yeah, go. So you had a few things that you wanted to talk about, which you gave me a list of. So yeah, crack on. How was yesterday?
Yeah, yesterday was interesting. It's probably not the prime example of a professional bodybuilding show that you would really kind of put up, to be honest. It's more of a modeling show. Okay. The thing is with bodybuilding is it's a very subjective sport. Mm-hmm. If you're a sensitive soul and you don't take criticism well, it's not the sport for you, basically, because you're relying on the opinions of other people. Yes. So if you're powerlifting, if you don't make the lift, you don't make the lift. Yeah. In bodybuilding, it's really subjective. So, but having said that, there are certain things that will affect how you look that are sometimes outside of your control. One thing being your tan. Okay. Another thing being outside stresses. And also a very disorganized show can really stress out the competitors and make a massive difference to your conditioning. So all three of those things we kind of experienced a little bit yesterday. So yeah, not the best not the best experience for a lot of my athletes, I have to be honest. But having said that, it is what it is, and you got to be prepared to take that on the chin sometimes.
So as a coach though, I mean, how would you get them prepared maybe to do the next show, having had an experience that maybe wasn't as 100% positive?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that when you go through, there's so many emotions that you go through in a show. You have the nerves for the pre-show, the prepping, everything else. If it's not going according to plan, you can be incredibly stressed out. That can play havoc with you. There's actually getting on the stage, the elation of getting on the stage, the fun, the thrill of it all, and then there's what I call
on the stage,
the post-comp blues. Yeah, and that is whether you succeed or not in placing or any of those things, you will get the post-comp blues. And the crash is horrendous for some people because the excitement, the build-up, you've been building towards this for 3-4 months, and then all of a sudden it's nothing. And it's almost like it's like a bereavement at the end of the day. Mentally it's really hard for some people to cope with. So for me, the best thing for any athlete is to get back on the horse as soon as possible. My methodology...
plan or just training or...
Well, my methodology is to just give people 3 to 4 days, depending on the person. Sometimes it's only 2, depending on how emotionally affected they are by food. They get to do whatever they like to do for those 2 or 3 days, just for the mental relief, if nothing else. Then they get hauled ass back into the gym. By that time, they're normally pretty sick of food. They've normally overindulged. They are ready to do whatever you tell them to do. And then they go back to the plan. And that's pretty quick as well. So, they get given a set plan. They have to eat what's on that plan. There's no deviation. It has to be eaten. And then they can put whatever they like on top of that. And generally people are quite full, so they don't tend to overindulge.
Okay.
So that's pretty much the way I work.
And would that be whether they were doing another show or not?
Yeah, absolutely. Most people I bring out of their show pretty quick. 3 weeks is maximum. I would like to keep somebody on a post-comp diet. mainly because most people are just sick of dieting by that point. They don't want to diet anymore unless they're rolling into another show. Pull them out as quickly as possible. So not only that, to make use of the post-comp rebound, which is basically where the muscles are just like sponges for about 6 weeks, where they'll just suck up everything. So make the most of that, train hard, eat really well, feed your body really, really well, good nutrition, and you will really make some changes very, very quickly after the show. So I like to make use of that as quickly as possible. And I tend to drum that into people as well. It's like, this is your most important part of your post-comp, and even your off-season in many ways. Off-season mentally is incredibly hard. It's so easy to go off the rails and take your foot off the pedal. If you're going into another show, it's incredibly hard to stay focused when you can't see what's going on underneath. And so I try. It's really hard to get people to stay on plan and keep their nutrition nailed, and that, I think, defines a person sometimes as to whether or not they're going to be successful on the stage. It's actually your off season that's important, not your prep. I mean, obviously your prep's important for condition, but you won't grow on prep. So you make the changes off season, and that's what's really important to remember and keep sort of here. It's very easy to forget that and just take your foot off the pedal. Okay,
so if you're kind of in the middle of prep, but think you're struggling with, like you're mentioning, like emotional problems with changing your diet and the sort of the physical problems that you can get with the change of diet. How do you kind of get through that?
I do. I don't like prepping online. I like to see people, as you know. I do it for special people. People I know are going to do as they're told, basically. Generally, I do have a record of everyone's health, both physically and mentally as well. I very, very rarely prep anyone who's had an eating disorder that still has an effect on them. I'm not saying that I wouldn't prep somebody who does have an eating disorder, but they have to have it under control, because mentally prep is horrendous. There's so many ups and downs. You don't see yourself properly, which is where you kind of go into the whole, dare I say it, lifestyle coaching. But it is really important. The mental welfare of my athletes is just as important as the physical, and I'm quite good at reading people. So if I can see someone, people can say to me, this is why I like to be face to face with people, because when I'm talking to someone, they might be saying one thing, but actually I can see that's not true. And normally you just ask the right questions and then you get the truth out of them. So
avocado, but they don't really.
Absolutely. And I do make accommodations for people. I mean, if you get to the stage where you just cannot stomach something anymore, I will change it, because I'd far rather you start, because adherence is what gets you there. If you can't adhere to your diet, you are not going to get there. So sometimes I have to make kind of a judgment call as to whether or not, if you're not going to eat your avocado, I need to put something else in place that you are going to eat. So it's one of those things. As for dietary problems, obviously I'm kind of quite qualified with that sort of side of things. So I can assess people who have nutritional issues, dietary issues. When they get to a certain point, I won't prep someone for a show, because they need to go and see someone with more qualifications and professional knowledge than I have. So there's a line that I do draw. And once it goes past that, I'm like, no, you need to go and see the relevant professional to get this sorted out. So, I don't pretend to know everything, because I don't. I'm still learning. I always will be learning, because that's just part of the process. Nutrition, as you know, involves.
I think that's this industry as well, isn't it? Everything's changing and new things kind of come out, and you have to look into that. People want to try different. And I'm kind of a bit experimental, but not with my athletes, with myself. So every prep I do, if I hear of something, or somebody said, oh, have you tried this? Or, you should give this a go. And I'm like, okay, then, I'll give that a go. Every prep can be entirely different for me, but I wouldn't do something I wasn't confident about to someone else unless I knew it worked. So what's the weirdest thing you've tried then? Like,
Um, not weirdest, but most uncomfortable for me personally was the whole intermittent fasting.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't deal well with food deprivation at all. Take it away for a prolonged period of time, and yeah, bloodshed ensues. I'm not very good with it at all. So I think, oh God, yeah, I don't. Yeah, I just think probably the most ridiculous thing I ever did was actually at the end of last prep, and I was desperate to put some mass on my shoulders because you know my shoulders are the bane of my life, and so I decided that I was going to come out of prep really quick and just go onto my pre-prep diet, which you know is relatively clean anyway. So yeah, I beefed back up to 250 grams of chicken and rice equally with green extra for 6 meals.
How long?
Literally about 3 days afterwards. After about a week, I thought I was going to explode. So never going to do that again. Because I was like, stick a pin in me, I am going to go pop. I was so tight. I was holding so much water. So yeah, you can do that cleanly as well as with rubbish. So yeah, don't recommend that one.
Okay, so that was just the volume of food though, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just the sheer volume of food. It was ridiculous. So yeah, that's an experiment that, yeah, I probably won't do again. Yeah, I'll come out sensitively next time.
Okay. So we did have a couple of questions that some people wanted to ask. Do you have a favorite, you see, I know the answer to this one, but do you have a favorite cheat meal?
Yeah, I do. I have a favorite go-to, and anyone who knows me very, very well will probably be able to answer that question without even thinking about it. So I am actually going to ask you, what is my favorite cheat meal?
Oh, isn't it avocados?
Oh, absolutely. God damn it.
No, I think it probably would be a burger of some description with cheese on, I believe.
Yeah, I have a bit of a thing about cheeseburgers, which yeah, it's quite well known, to be fair. Yeah, cheeseburgers and fries is pretty much my go-to. I'm not a big fan of pizza. I don't really deal very well with pizza, so it upsets my stomach quite badly. So I have celiac disease, which I keep under control rigidly because I'm actually very sensitive. I can't even eat oats. So even a gluten-free pizza, because it's just literally full of inflammatory foods, I can't eat it. I just can't eat it, especially on prep, because it just ruins me. So I don't even touch it. Cheeseburger and fries from Emma. Look, she knows me quite well. She's one of my victims.
It's true.
It is true. So yeah, it's all good. Yeah, I mean, some people love pizza as a go-to on their cheat meal, and they handle it really well. It's very individual, very individual. So I just say to people, you know, stay with what's comfortable for you. Prep is not the time to get experimental with stuff. It's, you know, if you know something, you like something, it's, you know, it makes you happy inside, go for it and stick with it. It's fine.
Okay. Burgers make you happy inside.
Burgers make me very happy.
That's going to be
Burgers make me happy. Yeah, I should do that.
Okay. So, okay, let me have a look. What else do we have? So you also wanted to touch on things that they don't tell you. I like that. What's that?
Yeah, I remember when I was when you prep your first show, you see all these things posted on Instagram and Facebook and what have you, and they're all about, you know, like these girls post these beautiful pictures up of them having a ball and everything else, and what they don't tell you is you kind of get about the mood swings, because we all kind of get a little bit hangry from time to time, but what they don't tell you is your complete lack of any kind of mouth-brain sensor, which I don't have a great deal of anyway. So yeah, chuck in the fact that you're on prep and you've got no patience for BS at all. It all becomes a little bit blunt, to say the least. The other thing is, what people don't tell you is, as you get further and further on into prep, obviously, essentially your body is starving, that you're taking all the body fat away. So essentially when it comes down to it, your body is starving. So you make use of literally everything. So by the time you get to the end of the prep, you're pretty much producing rabbit poo. And then obviously the direct contrast to having been that, obviously when you get off the stage and you have your cheat meal and everything else, the direct contrast, and nobody tells you about this, is the complete horror of the size of your poo afterwards. That was something they didn't warn me about, and it was truly quite horrific. So I take great delight in warning people about that one. Yeah, it's good. Yeah. And the other thing as well, and on a more serious note, is you actually don't see yourself properly. You don't see yourself the way you look.
Yeah.
All the way through your prep, you're obviously seeing gradual changes until the last couple of weeks. So until you get to the stage where you are stage lean, and even then sometimes you will see yourself as not ready, in some extremes fat, and it's not realistic. Your brain doesn't tell you what you look like. You focus on the worst bits about you, and that's all you see. You don't see the full package. You don't see any of that. You just see I'm fat, and that's it.
There's a lot of research that shows when looking at things, people with eating disorders, when they're wanting to lose weight to change what they look like, the brain actually is 3 months behind the actuality.
It does lag, yeah.
So if you're in a prep kind of scenario that's exactly the same, but you're almost more critical because you aren't going to be criticized publicly.
Absolutely, yeah. And the big thing I tell my athletes is you are not being judged. You as a person are not being judged. Your physique is being judged. So do not take what people say to you personally, because they don't know you. Yeah. All they see is a bit of sparkly dental floss and a number and your physique. They don't know you. They don't know your name. They have no idea who you are unless you're a name in the industry already. So they are not judging you. They are judging your physique and your physique alone. So whatever they say to you on stage, or even afterwards when you get your feedback, they are not criticising you. And you've got to realise that this sport is not a personal attack on you if you don't place or you don't look as good as you thought you did.
Yeah. The way around as well. You might actually see pictures of yourself and suddenly realise how much you have changed and what you did.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very much a competitor for myself. I don't really compete for any other reason than just to make improvements every time. So for me, the biggest thrill is going through the prep, coming out the other side, looking at the stage photos and going, yeah, I did that. Yeah. And obviously directly in contrast, if you don't achieve that, it's quite depressing. You're like, oh, I thought I'd done that and it looks really rubbish. And, so it can be a little bit helter-skelter in that sense. But, it's keeping the front of your mind that you're not the person being judged. Your physique's being judged, but not you as a person. And that's quite important to remember.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. If anyone's actually thinking of competing and hasn't competed before, I think that is really, really good advice.
Yeah.
It looks like a very glamorous industry.
It really isn't.
Yeah, but it does it does look like that, isn't it? You're looking at the pictures and like you said, they look like they're having a great time. They're wearing, these amazing costumes and outfits and, all tanned up and they have their hair done. And I mean, I'm talking about the guys as well. Obviously, they have the makeup.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all for, the guys should be wearing bling on their trunks, but apparently they're not really up for that. So,
they're missing a trick. It would draw your eye.
It's all about the bling. It is all about the bling. Unfortunately, they draw the line apparently as having bikini connectors and stuff. So, I'm still working on it.
No, I'm sure you can get a few this year.
I'm going to try.
Right. Okay. So what else? So we've covered that. What cravings do you have then when you're in prep, other than a cheeseburger?
Yeah, cheeseburgers. I don't really crave anything anymore.
Okay.
My first prep was horrendous. I had this thing about flapjacks. I don't even like flapjacks that much, but I just had this obsession with them. And I have to be honest, I was utterly disappointed when I got to the other side and I had one and I was like, this is nowhere near as good as I thought it was going to be. So I don't really get cravings. I get to the point where I just don't want to feel hungry anymore. That's my thing. I'm just looking forwards to having time where I'm not feeling hungry. I don't get starving on prep. I mean, you hear about people who literally just never they're always going on about how hungry they are. And I think if you're constantly hungry, you're not doing it right. The latter end, yes, fair enough. If you're starving at the beginning of prep, your calories are too low because your body's screaming that you're hungry. Your body will take a couple of days to adjust to a new plan, but in essentiality, you should be able to chip away quite sensibly. And if you have an athlete that's really struggling at the beginning of prep with dizziness and hunger and they're feeling tired, their calories aren't right. And this I'm quite adamant about, is that the art of prepping someone well is getting them to lose body fat on as many calories as possible. Because if you slash their calories right from the start and they hit a plateau, where do you go from there?
Yeah.
You know, and quite often I see like these posts where people have started prep and they're already doing 2 hours cardio a day and they've already gone into ketosis and they're already doing this, that and the other. And they're like, but you're like in the first 2 weeks of prep. If you throw everything at that right from the start, when your body's quite happy to lose a little bit of body fat, then what do you do when you get to that point where it's really difficult? So I keep all the tools in the box as much as I can until I get to the point where I need to start using stuff to get those last bits of body fat on, off rather, not on, because otherwise you are stuck with what do I do now when you get into sort of the last 5 or 6 weeks of prep, which can be, you know, people's bodies do fight back. You know, they don't want to be that lean. It's not healthy to be that lean. Your body has a natural set level where it kind of likes to be. Getting under that can be a struggle. So if you throw all the tools at it when it's not at that stage, what do you do when it gets to that stage? Just add in more cardio. Okay, so now she's doing 6 hours cardio a day. She's in no carbs. She's on 800 calories a day, and we've just hit another plateau. What do I do now? And it's just like, okay, I'll just feed her on dust for the next 6 weeks. So no, I'm not a big proponent of starvation diets for prep. So I'll get off my soapbox now.
I liked that soapbox, to be honest. No, but it's really important though. It's really important because there are so many people I see that are on 1,000 calories from like the start, and it's just not healthy. I know how to be on 1,000 calories. I've experimented on myself, shall we say. But it's just, you know, that kind of thing I think is a misconception. And, you know, when people don't necessarily have a coach or they haven't taken advice, you know, that's something that they maybe do from the beginning because they don't really understand the process. So, yeah, I think it's a soapbox that needs to be kind of advertised a little bit because people need that kind of information, I think.
Yeah.
But what have I got on here? So I have a question that somebody wanted to ask. How long have you been competing yourself?
I've been competing now for in bodybuilding. I've been competing now for 4 years. Hang on a second. No, people, I'll come and give you a kiss in a bit. That's all right, it's my son. I've been competing in bodybuilding for 4 years, but I have been involved in competitive sports since I was 9, and been competing in sort of various sports at various levels, from national to international levels. Bodybuilding was one of those things where I originally kind of did it. It was more it was more to prove someone wrong than it was for myself. It was the old traditional, you can't do that. And I was like, yeah, watch me, that sort of thing. Because anyone who knows me knows I'm as stubborn as a mule. So if somebody tells me I can't do something, I'm going to get out of my way to prove them wrong. So yeah, 4 years. Yeah, absolutely. But I had a good 12 months beforehand of trying to put a little bit of mass on. So because I'm naturally not a very muscular person, I'm quite a lean person anyway. So putting mass on is actually incredibly hard for me. And because I don't take any assistance at all as well, I'm a natural athlete, even more so. And actually eating the volumes of food that I have to eat to keep up with my metabolism is actually quite hard as well, because I'm quite adaptive. Off season, my calories, and I'm not kidding, this is no exaggeration, my calories are around the 4,000 to 4,400 mark. So when you're eating chicken, rice, green veg, mince, salmon, avocado, that sort of thing, that's a hell of a lot of food. To spend most of my time eating. It sounds lovely, but you know, there's only so much avocado you can eat.
Yeah, that's true. So I mean, realistically, then this is actually quite a difficult sport for you to be in, because your metabolic rate and how your body functions, the amount you're having to eat, trying to put mass on, that's actually quite a difficult sport that you've chosen to compete in, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. For me, yeah, when you think about physiology and genetics and stuff like that, yeah, I'm kind of up against the wall a little bit with it. When you look at your typical bodybuilder, especially females, the average female bodybuilder is probably in the region of maybe 5'4" to 5'7". That's the kind of natural range of height wise. I sit at 5'10" and a bit. So I'm quite tall. So I had that added disadvantage. I'm naturally quite lean. I don't hold mass. It comes off very quickly if I don't diet properly. Yeah. Yeah. Anything that involves an extension of my limb, it's not happening.
Okay.
So
yeah. Okay. So you've picked, but you're succeeding though. The thing that you've got all those things against you, and you're still succeeding and still playing.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting there. I'm never going to be a shining star in the bodybuilding world in the sense of, winning massive accolades or anything like that. But I do genuinely love the lifestyle, and that's why I do it, to be honest. If I didn't love it, I wouldn't do it. I love what I do. I love the training. I love the food. I love the lifestyle. I love the fact that I can manipulate my body to achieve what I want to do, or a look that I want to do. I'm naturally kind of quite stubborn. So, yeah, I know. You wouldn't think it, would you? No, not at all. And also the fact that the bodybuilding world, there's a lot of crap that flies around about various diets and stuff like that. But actually, the people that really are in this particular industry and they're in there properly, they live the lifestyle properly. They're not kind of summer bodybuilders or fashion bodybuilders, but proper bodybuilders. There's no bullshit. You do what it's very simple how we do this. It's basically hard graft and dedication, and 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. There is no let up. It is literally, if you decide to do this, it's all in. There's no kind of, I'm going to be a bodybuilder for 4 months of the year, and then I'm going to be, I don't know, an Olympic swimmer. I don't know. You are in this lifestyle for good or ill. You're in this lifestyle 24/7. So that's what you could be prepared for. I just saw a question come up. Why was it a disadvantage to be tall? it's down to skeletal length and musculature, because obviously the shorter you are, the more mass you can put on quickly and the more muscular you're going to look. So it's that age-old thing of people looking like a giraffe on stage. I mean, everyone knows my nickname's Rafi because I look like a giraffe and I've got long legs and long arms. So obviously the longer the limbs, the harder it is to put the sort of mass on to look the way somebody shorter does. And it's as simple as that. So
I think you look like Wonder Woman. I don't think you look like a giraffe.
I get bank balance, to be fair.
I think that's really unfair. I can't believe someone said that.
My knees used to be fatter than my legs, so.
Okay. Right. Okay. So, have you noticed any other questions? Because I've been trying to look at the ones that were sent to me beforehand. I have a question here, which was: do you have any controversial ideas within your field of expertise that you can?
In terms of what? In terms of what exactly? Training or food? Because training, yeah.
Training. Hit me with training.
I'll hit you with training. Okay. Argument old school bodybuilding training. 3 sets, 4 sets, 10 to 12, heavy reps. Okay. The old school bodybuilding.
My standard day.
Absolutely. And a lot of bodybuilders do incredibly well on that. Over the years, I've experimented, and I've found shoulders respond to hard and heavy, biceps respond to high reps, triceps respond to hard and heavy, legs respond to just about everything as long as you hit them as hard as you can with as much weight as you can and don't pussyfoot around with it. Calves, you've either got them or you ain't.
Okay.
If you ain't, you're going to be working them every single day for about 2 or 3 years to get them to come up. They need to be absolutely beasted. So for me, I think it's just a combination of different things. And I think probably the most controversial thing that I've probably introduced with most of my clients is I tend to use a lot of body weight work.
Okay.
So they will do, for argument's sake, on a chest day, what I really like to do is get somebody to do maybe some heavy sets on chest and then go and throw some really high sets out on press-ups.
Okay.
And then they get back on the bench and they'll do another exercise. And actually the difference in the intensity of the workout is very, very dramatic. I mean, I've had guys who can quite happily dumbbell press incline 50 kilo dumbbells, you know, for reps, 10 to 12 reps. So I'll do that.
Yeah.
I'll do that. Yeah. And I'll say, we're going to do 2 sets of incline dumbbell press. And they'll go, what, just 2 sets? And I'm like, yeah, because you're also going to do 2 sets of body weight press ups. And they go, all right. So I'll get them to do the incline, whack them down onto the floor, 1 set of to failure press ups. They get back up onto the bench and they drop down to 35 kilos on the bench press. Because all of a sudden the intensity is horrendous. It's not something I would do all the time, but it's a really good way to kind of shock fibers in the muscle. And, you know, sometimes kick out a plateau is really good to do stuff like that. So pull-ups, stuff on the rings, all sorts of nonsense, TRXs. Because I like to hit all the fibers in the muscle. And bodybuilders tend to suffer from connective tissue weakness as well, because they pump up the muscles quite strong. Connective tissue weakens. And that's when quite often you'll hear bodybuilders will have a tennis elbow, rotator cuff injuries, problems with knees, ankles, that sort of thing, because they build up muscle strength, but then they kind of neglect the connective tissue strength as well. So, and I throw in quite often heavy strength cycles as well. So they will do a week of compound lifting or 2 weeks of compound lifting. Just depends on the client, to be honest, as to what I do with them. But
so does this work irrespective of who they are and genetics and everything?
Male or female, I don't tend to train differently, other than the fact that obviously the weights are different. women respond better on legs with higher reps and intensity. Women's endurance on their legs is incredible compared to men's, and I don't mean that disparagingly. It is just a physiological thing that I've noticed over the years of training people, is that women just can beast their legs comparatively. And I've put this down. I don't know what the actual real reason is, but personally, I think it's down to testosterone levels.
Right. Okay.
Men tend to pump a lot harder than women, muscular wise. Their vessels fill up with a lot more blood. So I think for men, the pump on legs is a lot more painful than it is for women, which is why they tend to flake out quicker. So I tend to kind of keep the weight a lot higher and the reps a little bit lower with guys, just so that they don't get quite such a heavy pump and they can keep going a little bit longer. I do like to keep intensity high though. I very rarely will let anyone have a rest of more than 45 seconds between each set. So workouts are generally pretty quick. Within sort of 45, they've done it. It's done. Whatever they're working, the job's done. Legs may be a little bit longer sometimes, depending on the person. They might have a slightly longer break. I like using GVT a lot with legs to break plateaus.
You want to explain what that means, my lovely?
Well, German volume training is 10 sets of 10. Which sounds pretty simple. Within 60, usually around 60% of a person's 1 rep max. Now, if you're not sure what somebody's 1 rep max is, generally whatever they would lift for 10 to 12 reps, drop say maybe 10 kilos off, and then they'll be able to perform the whole set of GVT. GVT is one of those methods, and if you read up on it, it's a very, very simple concept. It basically exhausts the muscle fibers, so the tear is quite deep. So it's not something I would do on a regular basis, because the central nervous system just wouldn't be able to cope with it on a regular basis, and you wouldn't benefit that much from it on a regular basis. But especially for people who have kind of more stubborn muscle groups, chucking in a GVT session can really be quite effective. Just be prepared for majorly epic DOMs afterwards.
How do you get rid of those? Nice foam rolling session?
Yeah, after a GVT session, I wouldn't recommend foam rolling for at least 2 days, because the inflammation is quite high. And basically,
like massage from your friendly massage therapist.
Yeah, just go to someone and say, just very gently, ease it out a little bit. I did do a GVT session once. It actually cost me £300.
What?
Well, the story is that I was actually off work, thank God, for 2 weeks in both of my jobs that I had at the time, and I did a GVT session, which felt really good. So I probably went a bit heavier than I should have done. And not the following morning, but the morning after, is the 36 hours later, I came down the stairs, on my arse basically, and really needed a wee. And I couldn't sit down on the toilet properly. So I grabbed hold of the sink and I fell and pulled the sink off the wall. And then there was a major water issue. Stop clock. When I got the plumber in, I'd eventually found the water, turned it off, and the pipe work, I'd ripped all the pipe work off the wall and the sink and everything else. So £300 later, after we repaired the sink and the pipe work, and I didn't train either. So trying to explain to him why I'd ripped the sink off the wall, trying to go for a wee, was quite interesting to say the least. So yeah.
The bodybuilding is expensive.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah, especially if you're plumbing.
And that's for the toilets afterwards as well.
yeah. Commodes apparently are the in thing at the moment. So yeah, go for one of those.
Okay, this is a question. I like this question here. If you could teach your younger self something, what would it be? If you could go back and say a really important lesson, what would you have told yourself?
Patience. When you're younger, you want everything now. And actually, anything worth having is worth waiting for. And this is what I say to a lot of my athletes. Patience and consistency are key to anything worth having in life. It's very rare that something will fall in your lap. You see these things are about, like these athletes that appear overnight and stuff like that. They don't. They've been working their asses off in the background for years. You know, it's not overnight at all. You don't get like that overnight. And it's quite heartbreaking to see sometimes the young lads coming in and they think all they've got to do is pump some iron for sort of 3 or 4 months and they will look like Phil Heath. They won't. It's not going to happen. There are some very, very genetically gifted athletes out there. There are some very, very consistent and patient athletes out there who work their asses off. There are very, very few that are gifted and work their asses off. And that's what makes a champion, is consistency and working your butt off to get there. And I'm not just talking about when you're in prep or when you're, you know, a little bit of off season or whatever. I'm talking these guys literally come in the gym. I've got a couple myself and they're amazing. They come in, I'm so, you know, they smack me every day. They walk in, they're off season, they train their butt off, they nail their diet every day, every single day. They make sure that they're kind of 100%. There's no cheating. There's no half measures. They come in, they work their asses off. And probably out of those people, there may be one person that actually has the genetics to go with it. So I found in life, people who are genetically gifted tend to throw it away because they don't have to do an awful lot to get there. Yeah. And they think, you know, that they will succeed no matter what. The thing is that when you get to the upper echelons of any sport, they're all genetically gifted. Yeah. You know, that's why they're at the top of their sport. So unless you work your arse off as well, genetics is not going to get you there. You need to be dedicated as well. So if it's something you don't enjoy or you're not 100% committed to, I don't care how genetically gifted you are, you're not going to get there. So the one thing I would say to any athlete, regardless of genetics, the one thing that will get you where you want to go is consistency. Just be patient and consistent and just keep plugging away, because it will come.
I've been attacked by a cat. Sorry. She just suddenly decided I was a scratching pose. I was like, what?
Oh, bless her.
That basically is telling me that she wants.
I'm surprised mine hasn't made an appearance. She's normally kind of stalking me at some point by now.
Just took me a bit by surprise. Yeah, no, I completely understand what you're saying. And one of the things that frustrates me when I see somebody who has that natural talent and the gift, and that they don't like make the most of it. There's always 90% of the population that would give their right or left arm or you know, to have that, and because they would put the effort in, because you know all they are doing. And I think that's one of the most frustrating things in any sport. You know, I see it in rugby players, and you know, they've got a gift and they just don't make the most of it, because like you say, they think they can just coast. And I think coasting is the difference between acknowledging and using that gift that you've got, or making 110% of it worth, you know. I mean, I was a little bit like that when I did my my GCSEs and my A levels. You know, I could do the exams, I could do the work, so I didn't put much effort in, really, if I'm honest. And it wasn't until I got to university, where I really, really wanted that degree, that I actually did do some work. Which, you know,
and you've got to remember as well, it's like everyone's at school, so everyone has to do the same thing. But when you're at university, it's you know, you can't be a bit dumb and be at the university. You know, they're all kind of fairly bright people, so if you don't put the work in, it's going to show up pretty quick, isn't it? So you know, it's like anything, you know, to get to the top, you have to be prepared to make the sacrifices. And I mean, people say to me, I couldn't eat like you do and train like you do. And I'm like, well, if you can't, then don't. I'm not I'm not forcing you to do it. But what I'm saying to you is, if you want to get anywhere in this sport, this is what you have to do. This is how you live to get where you want to go. And depending on how much of that you want to put in, depends on how much you get out. And that's pretty much the rule of thumb for anything in life. You know, you only get out what you put in. And people often see, like, they see the tip of the iceberg. The work that you put in doesn't get seen. They just see the bit where you're standing in, you know, your sparkly pants on the stage looking awesome, but they don't see the 365 days before that you were working your butt off to get there. So, and this is where people make this mistake in bodybuilding, I think, because they think that you just go in, chuck a few dumbbells around and hope for the best. And it's really not like that. If, out of all the sports that I've taken part in, and I've taken part in a fair few, bodybuilding probably is the only one where you have to be there 365 days a year. And that's it. There's no...
So, I mean, your intensity obviously will change throughout that 365 days, I'm presuming. But
absolutely. I mean, I'm no angel. You know, I have my good days and my bad days. You know, Christmas time, some bodybuilders just kind of say, right, it's Christmas, I'm off plan, I'm just going to do what I want to do. I can't do that too much because I'm actually not very good with eating. I forget. I know what kind of tosser forgets to eat, but I do. Because I get busy and then I forget, and then I get to the point where I'm like, oh crap, I haven't eaten, and then I'm trying to make up for it, and then you end up eating rubbish, and it's not very good. So I give myself like Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Boxing Day, but I do tend to eat like a couple of like my normal meals that I would eat during that time, simply just so that I eat enough, because I can be one of these people that I'll have a couple of mince pies and I think that's fine. And actually there's very little nutrition in a mince pie. Don't get me wrong, I love a mince pie, they're great, but no protein, mega fuck tons of carbohydrate and fat, and not a lot else. So yeah, it's not ideal for bodybuilding, put it that way. So I don't go too much off the rails over Christmas, but having said that, I do like, I'm not a big cake fan, but I do like a cheeseburger. I do like I'm not a big
burger, really?
I do like a cheeseburger. I may have mentioned that once or twice, I'm not sure. Yeah, I do like a cheeseburger. What's your daily routine look like then? Because like obviously you're kind of focusing on eating a specific amount, you know, and that will take a lot of time in the day, I'm sure. But I mean, I tend to batch cook, to be fair. Typically for me, at the moment, obviously I'm prepping for a show, so for me in the morning I would have, and I just thought I'd mention, I am 2 weeks out. And my calories are still relatively high. For anyone who's feeling anal today, you can actually work them out if you like. But relatively high for 2 weeks out, because I do have a ridiculous metabolism and I do have to be a little bit careful. So I'll have 2 whole eggs and 4 egg whites. I can't eat oats, but I do eat rice oats. So I'll have about 30 grams of those. And it is weighed out. And then meal 2 will be 130 grams of chicken, 120 grams of rice. Meal 3 is the same. Meal 4, 130 grams of mince, steak mince, 120 grams of rice. Meal 5 is, where am I? Yeah, 120 grams of salmon. Had to think about that then. 110 grams of rice. And then meal 6 will be, again, 2 whole eggs and 4 egg whites. And if I'm feeling a bit shaky, if I had quite a heavy load on that day, and sometimes I'll have a couple of extra egg whites before I go to bed, or maybe a half a dose of casein, but not often. It's only if I've had a heavy load training wise or teaching wise. So
you don't train every day?
No, I train 5 or 6 days a week, depending. I listen to my body a lot. If I feel drained, it's a five-day week train. If I feel okay, then I'll do 6. I always have at least 1 day recovery a week. So, but yeah, this week I had 5 days because I was suffering from cramps quite a lot. So I laid off a little bit. Having said that, I have experimented with cardio this time. The last 2 weeks, I've actually chucked in some cardio. Anyone who knows me knows that I called cardio the C word.
Yeah. That's clever, by the way. Yeah.
I don't do cardio. I tried to do that.
I'm just going to put some subtitles. Just in case anybody comes.
Yeah, I have been known to burst out with a stream of expletives from time to time, but I've been behaving myself today, so.
I know. Yeah. You're on prep. That's really impressive.
I know. I haven't ranted once yet.
there is time when I ask you why do you live in France?
I love a rant. Can't be a rant. I love a rant.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with a rant. Okay, so on the subject of rants, what would you like to see changed within your industry?
I would like to see prep coaching and nutrition coaching more regulated. For the simple fact that a lot of the people I deal with, and bearing in mind, people kind of sort of think of me as being new on the scene in regards to training and coaching and nutrition and stuff like that. Well, in actual fact, I've been around in the fitness industry now for probably more years than I care to mention. But yeah, I've been kind of kicking around in the fitness industry now for over 20 years. So on and off.
I'd just like to say, you're not that old, though.
No. I started when I was
5. Yes.
Yes. Yes. At 5 years, at the tender age of 5 years, I got my nutrition qualification. In all seriousness, I have actually been competing since I was 9 years old in various sports, but I've kind of been kicking about with sort of various types of sport, coaching, teaching, classes, fitness classes, boot camps. I've turned my hand to sort of kind of various things. I've been around for a while, but I just haven't been in the bodybuilding industry for that long. So people kind of think of me being a sort of fairly new on the block in that regard, but sort of my knowledge spans quite a few years. So the experience I've had, and because I've had such a varied experience in sport, from boxing, kickboxing, gymnastics, heptathlete. I was heptathlete for a while. I did a little bit of, dare I say it, road cycling. Am I allowed to say that without being a complete knob? I was a road cyclist for a little while. Yeah, I've got the shoes to prove it. I still have them. Yeah.
You got to see some scenery.
Yeah. I get so bored. But anyway, I've had my fair share of experience with different techniques of training and sport, powerlifting. I did try Olympic lifting. People with long arms, it's not really a thing, unfortunately. You should see my snatch.
I have a vision of Mr. Tickle right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a little bit like that. Yeah. It's I have a varied background in sports. So, for me, this industry, there's so many, and I don't mean to be disparaging towards young people because, there's some awesome young trainers out there, and they really are. And us old gits can learn from the youngsters as well. Some of them coming out, they have such radical, fresh ideas. They make you pull your socks up sometimes. You sort of think, get a bit stuck in your ways, and it's awesome to see these young guys coming out. They've got enthusiasm and passion, and they're willing to kind of put everything into it. The unfortunate thing being is that in this industry, experience counts for a lot, because what's on paper doesn't necessarily work in the real world. And you do find that working with clients, you know, I think back to when I did my original personal training qualification, and if I tried to pull any of that on my clients, I'd be lynched and I'd be out of business very, very quickly. But it is a good foundation to start with. So I recommend, like, any young people coming out with their new qualifications and their enthusiasm and everything else, find yourself a really good, passionate, experienced mentor, and attach yourself to that person and learn from them. You know, pick their brains, ask the questions, eat a bit of humble pie, drop your ego, you know, and learn from that person, because they've been around, they've seen it all, they've done it all, you know. And in the same breath, that older person can pick up a lot from you as well, because there's always stuff is always changing. As you know, we're both the same. We're constantly updating and reading stuff and learning new stuff where in regards to nutrition and training and stuff like that. You know, I love going around and going to new gyms and you know, you see the old boy in the corner and you go, and he's doing something and thinking, well, what is that? And you go, why are you doing that? And he's like, oh yeah, I used to do that when I was a lad. And you're like, brilliant, I'm going to give that a go. So you can always learn, always. But the problem is with this industry, because it's so open, there's no regulation. Pretty much anyone can set themselves up as a prep coach, you know, without really having any kind of experience. Especially now you've got internet and stuff like that. There's a lot of online coaching. Personally, I don't like online coaching. I like to see people. I like to deal with people. You lose that personal touch as soon as you start typing on a keyboard. So for me, that's not really an option. I will do it in special circumstances, but I don't like making a habit of it. So I think really there needs to be some kind of
governing body, or
there needs to be some sort of professional body that governs how this sort of stuff is done. And it's not just like the physical side, because you can do so much damage if you don't know what you're doing. You know, you can not just physically but psychologically as well. You can you can cause people to end up with eating disorders. You can metabolically damage people so that they when they come out of the plan, they can't keep the weight off. You know, you can sometimes, you know, so many athletes just get abandoned by their prep coaches afterwards. I mean, I've had sort of, you know, I've had 3 or 4 this year already that were abandoned by their coaches last year. You know, the second their prep finished, that was it. You know, my athletes don't finish their prep until 3 or 4 weeks after the competition. That's when their prep ends. And even then, I'm still in touch with them. So if they have problems, you can kind of sort it out. But, you know, so many, they're just dropped the second their competition is done. That's it. I
completely agree. And I think it almost works the other way as well. You know, there are an awful lot of very, very knowledgeable people that don't necessarily have the piece of paper. Absolutely. And I think that there's an awful lot for them to be there in the industry. But you get, you know, I think there needs to be some kind of regulation, but they still have their place a little bit. And I think, I don't quite know how it would work. Personally.
I totally agree with you. I don't think it needs to be a bit of paper. I think it needs to be some sort of professional body that assesses you by conduct and feedback from clientele. So possibly like an assessment process, if you like, where the governing body gets feedback from the clients of the professional that's providing the service. So, you know, if they don't have that bit of paper necessarily, they can go through the other route of doing it through however much experience they've had, or the feedback from their clients and stuff like that. So they don't necessarily, you know, have to have a bit of paper to prove that they can actually do their job, because obviously there's a lot of people out there that have been around for a long time, have a lot of knowledge, and actually have probably done more education wise than some of the people with a bit of paper. Because I mean, I'm dead if I hear of a new technique or a new new discovery, and I'm straight on it, and I'm just like, oh, what's this all about then, and I know you're the same. So but then there's other people out there who've got paper coming out of their ears but actually have never renewed their qualifications or updated their information, and they're still drinking bulletproof coffee.
Hey!
I said that out loud, didn't I? I did say that out loud. Yeah, don't get me started.
There's nothing wrong with bulletproof coffee, I'm sure. Anyway, so if you actually have time to relax, what do you do?
What is this word? I sleep mostly. Relaxing. Believe it or not, I do. I like to paint. If anyone's seen my gym walls, they're covered in graffiti, and it was done by me. I do like to paint.
Becca, what's your? You just tell everyone where they can have a look at the pictures.
If you go on there's some photos on the War Machines website. So it's warmachinesgym.com, spelled WAUGH. And there's also loads of stuff on my Facebook page as well. So if you go on, just type in my name, Nikki Ricks, NIKKY. There's a long story behind that. I'm not going into it now, but yeah, it's spelled that way for a reason. If you go on my webpage, or even the War Machines Facebook page, they will. There's photos galore up there, and some quite ridiculous ones as well. So you can have a good chuckle at our expense. Just brought coffee.
Wait, where's mine?
So she don't rant.
So I don't rant, apparently.
Okay, that's a small coffee for this time of the evening, isn't it? Okay. So yeah, that on the screen is thank you to Emma, the spelling of the gym. But to be fair, that is I think that is a very unique talent that you have there, because it looks amazing as your gym. And I can say that because I drove for 5 hours to come and visit your gym, and then drove back again. I drove to France. I was in France. I could see France. It was like literally
spitting distance, to be fair.
To France. So aside from the fact that you live in a ridiculous place, which is far too far away from Yorkshire, it is. It looks amazing as a gym. But I also like the atmosphere in there. I like the fact that everybody is there to help everybody else. It's not a very, you go in some of these commercial gyms and it's very cliquey, and I don't like that. I like to train somewhere where I feel like I'm welcome, and that if I get stuck on something, I can ask somebody. And that's exactly what I found in your gym. It was a lovely place to train.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we try to keep it that way. We've got a really, really good membership base, kind of competitive athletes notwithstanding. The actual membership base, they're just lovely. They're just a really lovely bunch of people. We've encouraged the helpfulness side of things right from the start. We don't want anyone feeling uncomfortable in the gym. We want them to be able to come in, train, not feel that they're under pressure to do anything in particular. Everyone is given some form of help and a goal in regards to where their training is going. We don't leave people to just kind of flounder. So I wanted to get back to the old school kind of family run, where you can go in, you're going to get a bit of abuse and a bit of banter. But at the end of the day, if the shit hit the fan and somebody was in trouble, everyone would rally round, and it's that sort of environment, so, and that's fine, keep.
As soon as you walk through the door, though, you get that sense. So what you've tried to achieve has definitely worked, as far as I'm concerned. And that was something. I'm not somebody who trains there day in, day out, and weekly. It was a one-off, but you get that. So yeah, I think you've done that absolutely perfectly.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that you think that you want to kind of share, or any crazy advice other than the news that you're going to relocate to Yorkshire?
I will open one in Yorkshire. Just
thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, my life is just generally full of crazy shit, to be honest. But you know, I would just say to people, don't get hung up in the minutiae of bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is very simple in its format. Train hard, eat well, stay consistent, keep hydrated, don't be a dick.
That actually could be just a life hack generally. Don't be a dick.
Yeah.
And keep consistently don't be a dick, I think would Absolutely. Be good.
Consistently don't be a dick, yeah. Yeah, in the bodybuilding essentially attracts a lot of dickish behaviour, and at the end of the day, I say to the guys, don't talk to a female in the gym in a way that if it was your sister, you wouldn't like it. Mm-hmm. And having said that as well for the girls, I'm the same thing. I'm like, don't speak to the guys in the gym that if they spoke to you in the same manner, you wouldn't be offended. So, you know, it's just treat everyone with respect. Everyone's on their own journey. Everyone has a story. Everyone has their own problems, trials, tribulations, griefs, joys. You know, everyone has something that is not 100% perfect in their world. So for you to go around judging other people based on your opinion of what they look like or what they train like or how they act without any kind of information whatsoever is dickish. You know, it's not fair to judge people. Yeah. That lassie who's a little bit chubby on the treadmill, I mean, we know the incident. It was unfortunate. Somebody made an awful post or comment. It happens. It probably wasn't thought out very well. It probably wasn't even intended that way. It just went tits up. But we've all been guilty of making a snap judgment about someone without actually having any facts. You know, that girl who's particularly skinny in the corner, you know, barely lifting a 2.5 kilo dumbbell, you know, she's making an effort. And for a lot of people, the biggest effort is walking through that front door. And for you to turn around, you know, everyone starts somewhere. So for somebody to turn around and then disparage them for whatever reason they feel that they're not worthy is wrong, because, you know, it's everyone starts somewhere. So whether you're overweight, underweight, no one was born having a six-pack and looking fabulous. It's not, it doesn't, no one naturally looks like that. It's hard work to look like that. Me. Obviously, except you. Just suspend being judgmental for whatever reason and just welcome whoever in the gym. If they're being obnoxious, yeah, by all means, you know, that's when you pull them up. But don't, you know, start off by being offensive towards anyone, because they're all trying whatever, you know. Yeah, don't get me wrong, we've all had that moment where somebody's done something exceptionally stupid and you just can't help yourself. But there's a difference between taking the mickey because someone's been a bit of a plonker and taking the mickey because someone's tried really hard and got it wrong, you know. So yeah, it's, I mean, I am guilty. I am a piss taker, but I don't do it to be mean. I do it because I'm just see the funny side of everything. So and I take as much mickey out of myself as I do as everyone else. So which, you know, because I've been the subject of your abuse a few times as well. I think
I don't know.
This is payback for your last live feed, as I recall. So
Oh no, I think I said everything very complimentary about you, my dear. Anyway, so yes, no, I completely think that's good advice. I wouldn't say that judging people is something that we start doing. You know, we don't judge. I think we're kind of taught to judge, and I think that's the problem. Society is about that, you know, judging what people look like and judging how you're behaving and whether you've got the perfect life and whether, you know, your relationship's perfect. It's all about that kind of look, isn't it, to what everybody else thinks is happening, and it's not like that 100% of the time. You know, it's I used a phrase the other day which was, don't try to be somebody else's shiny bits of their life 100% of your time, because that's all it is. It's their shiny bits of their life, and that's a little bit like the bodybuilding thing. You know, Absolutely. You see this thing, it's the shiny bit of the kind of experience and the journey, and then that's the bit you see. And it's not like that 100% of the time. So no, I think that's good. That's good advice. My this is my cat. Look, she's going.
Hi, Nuri. Is that Nuri? Is that Nuri?
Yeah.
Hello. Happy.
Black in a black background. It doesn't really work. Okay, right. So if anyone's got any questions that they think of that they didn't remember to ask, or they suddenly decided imperative, then just sort of add on to the comments that is on the Facebook, and I'm sure I'll get back to you at some point, or perhaps if it's actual knowledge that you need, I'll get Nikki to come back to you. But thank you for what, and thank you for putting up with us. And I have to say, I'm very impressed that it didn't quite go sideways. I think it didn't go sideways as much as I was thinking it would.
Quite often when we're together, it does go rapidly sideways, but I think we were quite well behaved.
Yes. No, very good. Okay. I'm sure I'll speak to you soon, my lovely. And thank you for answering very honest questions as well.
Yeah.
Right.